Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the January 27th edition of Horses to Watch, where we highlight some horses to follow and potentially bet back in future starts. I like to look at horses' trips, see horses that potentially were hindered by some trouble, or were against pace situations or track biases, and see which ones were compromised by the trips that they had in the races and might do better in subsequent starts. This week we're focusing on some maiden races. I usually like to take a look at races from New York. We'll look at one of those this week, but we'll also travel around the country, look at one race from Gulfstream Park and another from Oaklawn. All of these races took place on last Saturday, January 23rd. We'll begin things, though, in New York at Aqueduct with the sixth race on that Saturday card. It's a New York-bred maiden claiming race, $40,000, 6 furlongs for the fillies. Let's break them from the gate. We're going to focus on the number 3, Gun Hill Girl. She will eventually win this race, but you might be surprised about that based on the way she starts, because you see she breaks last in this field. She's got her head turned to the left. She actually got sandwiched between horses if you watch the head on of the start, and she is at the back of this pack early, which is not a good thing, because if you watched her debut, she actually had a ton of speed. And I think if you were handicapping this race, you would have expected her to be on the front end due to all of the speed that she showed first time out. But she was at the back of the pack, and now she's going to show that speed, but about a furlong into the race, and her rider is going to allow her to run up outside of horses and basically loop the entire field with this premature move at the 3/8 pole. And that's just not really a recipe for success typically in races like this, especially for younger horses. But she is going to make this 5-wide move around the far turn and continue on with it. By the time they get to the quarter pole, she's gone from last by about 7 lengths all the way up to take the lead, and she's really taking command of this race by the time they come past the quarter pole. Now, she's going to get a little tired in the lane, but I think she had a real right to after making that early move to the front end here. I don't think there's a whole lot behind her in this race, and while she's going to win and do so by just a length and a half, I will say this is a figure that I think you can upgrade quite a bit. She only gets a 53 buyer for this score, but due to the start, due to that move that she made into the race on the far turn and how green she is in the late stages here, I think this is a horse that has a bit more ability than that 53 buyer would indicate. This was her first start for a new trainer, Mike Maselli. She had started for a different trainer when she began her career on turf at Aqueduct last year. She had also bolted in that first race, going out to the outside rail on the clubhouse turn. She was much more professional here. They put an extension blinker on for this second start, and she did run straight into the late stage when she started to get a little unfocused and tired at the end, but I can excuse that. I think this filly still might have some upward potential, even though she won this race. Let's now move on to another race. This one's from Gulfstream Park, also from Saturday. This was race 6 on that Gulfstream card, a maiden special weight event going 7 furlongs. The winner of this race, Prevalence, turned a lot of heads, and I think got added to many people's Kentucky Derby lists after his impressive debut score here. But I want to focus on a different horse out of this race. That's the number 3, Gazzali. Let's break them from the starting gate, and you're going to see the number 3 breaks with the field. He has a fine start to the race in between horses in those blue and white Shadwell silks for Todd Pletcher. And the winner, Prevalence, he's in that Godolphin blue to his outside. He's going to go on and contest the pace, but Gazzali's right inside of him, showing speed under an aggressive ride from Luis Saez, and he's going to get into a decent stalking position as they start to move down the backstretch. But you're going to see his horses sort of converge towards the inside here and cross over in front of him. This horse is going to start to react pretty badly to the kickbacks that's getting thrown on his face. And right here, you see he just steadily starts to back up through the pack. Horses are crossing in front of him. He's not liking it. He's down towards the inside in a pretty tight spot. And Saez is motivating him, but this horse is just not responding to the pressure. And he's actually going to drop all the way back to last place. If you watch the head on of this far turn run, there's a point where he's the last horse passing the 3/8 pole about this point in the race. Meanwhile, the eventual winner, Prevalence, is on the lead. And we're not going to see a whole lot of running going on from the back of the pack in this race. So do take note of what Gazzali does in the stretch of this race after dropping all the way back to last place on the far turn. He's going to come back into your screen right about here on the inside in those blue silks with the blue and white striped cap, one off the rail here, and he's going to make a pretty good late run through the stretch here. He's now moved up to about 6th from last place, and he's going to eventually finish 3rd here, just missing 2nd. Albeit beaten a long way by the winner, Prevalence, but this was a race that came back reasonably fast. The winner got an 89 buyer, 102 time formula speed figure. Gazzali got a 72 buyer for his 3rd place finish here. So considering the trip that he had, showing speed early, dropping all the way back to last, re-rallying for 3rd, this was a pretty eventful run for this horse's first start, and it was going a sprint distance. He does have a pedigree that suggests he should be much more proficient going longer. He's a son of Curlin. His dam is a half-sister to Grade 2 Oaklawn handicap Handicap winner Alternation, as well as Grade 1 Pacific Classic winner Higher Power. Those horses achieved third-graded stakes wins going 9 and 10 furlongs. So there is real pedigree for this horse to go classic distances, and I think he's one that could really benefit from this first start for Todd Pletcher when he comes back second time out. Let's finish things up at Oaklawn Park, where they ran another maiden special weight on Saturday. This was race 5 on their Saturday card. This one's going 6 furlongs for the 3-year-olds, and we'll break them from the gate. And kind of a similar theme here with horses having some trouble in the early portion of the race, and that'll be the case with the number 2, Test of Will, who kind of got bounced around between horses, is just totally knocked off stride at the start, and he winds up all the way at the back of the pack. You see he's last by about 3 lengths here, just about a 16th of a mile out of the gate. That's really not the kind of start you wanted, because this horse did race once prior at Churchill Downs and had shown much more speed than this with a clean break, but this time getting off to that awkward start, he found himself at the back of the pack. And kind of like the situation we saw with Gun Hill Girl in that first race that I showed from Aqueduct, he too is going to make a premature move down the backstretch, quickly passing horses as they pass the half-mile pole here. He's moving up on the outside, and not only is he moving into one of the fastest parts of the race, but he's doing so losing ground, racing wide of horses. He's about 4 to 5 wide here as they come towards the quarter pole, and that's just a really taxing trip, especially for an inexperienced horse that's making this move into the middle part of the race. He does get within about a length of the leader here as they come to the top of the stretch, but that early move is going to take its toll, and unlike the situation with Gun Hill Girl in that race at Aqueduct, where she really wasn't facing very good competition, this is a pretty strong maiden race. The winner out of sight. He got a good trip up front, but he might also be a horse with some ability. This also was a race that was dominated towards the front end. The winner went from gate to wire. I think the horse that was in second or third was stalking throughout in the second position. So it was just always going to be difficult for a horse like Test of Will to overcome that poor start, make that big move from last while racing wide, and continue on. So I think he ran a lot better than his final finishing position would suggest. And I think this runner also has some upper potential for Larry Jones. He's got a bit of pedigree if you go deeper in the female family. It's that family of Tisnow in the second generation. So I think there might be some potential for this horse to do better in the future and potentially even stretch out in distance. So I think he's definitely one to follow off this performance. Well, those are all the horses to watch for this week. Remember, you can always add these horses to your DRF watch mail if you want to follow them in the future. That's how I like to follow these horses. Just add them to a list on DRF.com under Horse Watch, and you'll get email notifications when they run back or have workouts or results in the future. So that's a nice way to follow these horses, not miss the opportunity to bet them when they run back. Well, those are all the horses to watch for this week. Stay tuned for another batch of horses to watch when we do this show next week on Wednesday.